The National Electrical Code, or NEC, does not explicitly prohibit reducing the size of a raceway mid-run without a conduit body or box. However, several sections of the code imply this requirement. Firstly, NEC 300.15 states that raceways must be continuous from outlet to outlet, junction box to junction box, or from outlet or junction box to equipment. This means the raceway system should maintain an unbroken path between defined points. Reducing the size of the raceway without proper transition compromises this continuity. Secondly, NEC 300.15 C mandates that raceways be securely connected to boxes, cabinets, fittings, and other raceways. This section emphasizes the importance of mechanically sound connections. A reduction in raceway size without a proper fitting or enclosure can weaken the connection and create a potential point of failure. Thirdly, NEC 300.22 outlines the permitted uses of conduit bodies. Conduit bodies are only for changing the direction of a conduit run, pulling conductors, making splices, and accommodating changes in the number of conductors. Reducing raceway size mid-run without a conduit body isn't explicitly listed as an acceptable use, which further suggests it's not permitted without such an enclosure. Consider that the NEC is a set of minimum safety standards. When a specific situation isn't directly addressed, the general principles of the code must be applied. The principles include maintaining electrical and mechanical integrity, ensuring safe conductor fill, and preventing physical damage to conductors. Reducing raceway size improperly can create several problems. Firstly, restricted space. A smaller raceway section may not provide adequate space for the conductors it contains, particularly if the number of conductors remains the same. This can lead to overheating and insulation damage. Secondly, difficulty pulling conductors. Transitions between different raceway sizes can create sharp edges or tight bends that make it difficult to pull conductors through the raceway. This can damage the conductor's insulation. Thirdly, compromised mechanical protection. The smaller raceway section may not provide the same level of physical protection as the larger section, increasing the risk of damage to the conductors. Code does not specifically allow for reducing raceway size mid-run without a proper transition. Therefore, based on these considerations, it is reasonable to conclude it isn't permitted. To perform a raceway size reduction correctly, 1. Use a conduit body. Install a conduit body such as LP, LL, LR, or T-fitting to provide a smooth transition between the two raceway sizes. The conduit body must be sized appropriately for the conductors it contains and must be accessible for future maintenance. 2. Use a junction box. Install a junction box to terminate the larger raceway and transition to the smaller raceway. The junction box must be sized appropriately for the conductors and splices it contains, and it must be accessible for future maintenance. 3. Use a reducing bushing or coupling. If the size difference between the two raceways is small, you may be able to use a reducing bushing or coupling to make the transition. However, ensure that the fitting is listed for the application and provides a secure connection. 4. Consider conductor fill. Before reducing raceway size, calculate the conductor fill for the smaller raceway to ensure that it complies with NEC requirements. The NEC specifies maximum fill percentages for different types of raceways. 5. Grounding and bonding. Ensure that the grounding and bonding system is properly maintained throughout the raceway system, even after the size reduction. This is critical for safety and to prevent electrical shock hazards. 6. Documentation. Document the raceway size reduction in your electrical drawings and specifications. This will help ensure that future modifications are made correctly. Let's consider some practical examples. Imagine you have a run of 1-inch conduit that needs to transition to 3/4-inch conduit. The proper way to do this would be to install a junction box where the 1-inch conduit terminates. Inside the junction box, you would make the necessary conductor splices and then transition to the 3/4-inch conduit. This ensures continuity, secure connections, and adequate space for the conductors. Another scenario could be where you have a run of rigid metal conduit transitioning to electrical metallic tubing, or ENT. Again, you would use a listed fitting or enclosure to make the transition. This fitting would provide a secure mechanical connection and maintain the integrity of the grounding path. To further clarify the NEC requirements, let's examine some common misconceptions. One misconception is that it's acceptable to simply crush or deform the larger raceway to fit into a smaller opening. This is not permitted because it damages the raceway, reduces its internal area, and can compromise its mechanical strength. Another misconception is that using tape or other non-approved methods to seal the gap between the two raceway sizes is acceptable. This is also not permitted because it doesn't provide a secure or reliable connection. In summary, while the NEC doesn't explicitly state that you can't reduce raceway size mid-run without a conduit body or box, the code's requirements for continuity, secure connections, and proper use of conduit bodies, along with the absence of specific allowances for such reductions, imply that it is not permitted. Always use approved methods and fittings to ensure a safe and code-compliant installation.